Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Wow, do we have some fun stuff to dive into today. The London Royal Ravens seemingly bought out by a Spanish organisation, the New York Subliners confirming their team, and Scump explaining a rather interesting method that teams could be using to cheat on LAN to gain an unfair competitive advantage. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to discuss today. Modern Warfare 2 about 3 or so weeks away at this point, but let's dive into this London Royal Ravens stuff. So we've expected, of course, all the teams at this point probably to announce their team. We believe we know what Vegas Legion as they are now, still with the same logo unfortunately, and that's certainly a relevant discussion here in a second, and what London are doing in terms of their rosters, but of course with Subliners announcing, we would hope that they'd get some announcements over the coming days for London and co. Now apparently there might be some sort of big announcement in the works from their perspective. As they say here, stay tuned in the replies. We don't really know how long it's going to take for these guys to announce, but this is a massive announcement yesterday from aBeZy and well, massive Spanish streamer. The Spanish community on Twitch is like maybe even still underratedly massive. Like this guy, huge content creator, and started with some others, an organization called Koi Esports, I'm guessing KOI Esports, maybe a year or so. I'm not really sure how long ago they've had this going for, but they just were confirmed to be partners in the Valorant League and also in the LEC going forwards, because they've effectively just bought out Rogue. Now Rogue, a pretty big esports organization for a number of years, and they own, or at least have like a massive stake in the Call of Duty League team, the London Royal Ravens. So as he describes here, I still can't believe we're in the VCT and LEC next year. In just 10 months of life, he reckons, yes, a Rainbow Six, Rocket League and Call of Duty, like they're now added to the arsenal. So crazy stuff actually. That Koi will now effectively be operating the London Royal Ravens franchise. So I mean, this is like absolutely crazy stuff. They just purchased a majority share of Rogue's LEC spot, and I mean, it was a weird thing with London because like Rogue, they partnered with some like I don't know, some sort of like metaverse company, or there was some weird stuff going on that was valued at like 500 million or so, and I was like, okay, yeah, hang on, how does that make any sense? But regardless, whatever's going on there, London seemingly now have like new ownership, or at least new kind of you know, operational perspective, and probably ownership, just because it seems like they wanted to rebrand the London Royal Ravens organization to something else that has at least for now been declined by Activision. Now maybe declined just because it's past the deadline. We saw this from the Las Vegas Legion recently, where I mean, look, they can't change, okay, Las Vegas now, not Paris, but I think they were intending to change their name from Legion to something else and change their logo to kind of like the Las Vegas, like the star, whatever's going on there, but they missed the deadline for Activision and they were like, okay, you can't do it. But you know, next year, I guess if they actually do make the deadline, they could potentially make that change if they don't get bought out elsewhere. Might be a similar thing here going on with London. So Koi has joined forces with Rogue, the kind of sister brand of Ravens, and seemingly will be taking a big step here in terms of the operational perspective. He kind of explained in a TikTok video here saying that, you know, Ravens will compete under the name and the branding of Koi, but you know, then goes on to say that like all of the Rogue teams will start to rebrand to the Koi name, except for the COD team, because of a rule in Activision's league which denies London Royal Ravens to rebrand. So they couldn't just rebrand to Koi as it is, because of course, franchise league, you've got to have a city name and everything attached to it, but you'd imagine they might want to effectively make London a Spanish organization, right? I mean, why not? Yes, they can't do that now. They probably can't relocate now because of, you know, the restrictions around that, and also can't change the name as it stands. But next season, London might all of a sudden be, you know, a Madrid or a Barcelona team, which would be kind of crazy. I really like the idea in theory. I mean, okay, I would still want to have a UK team. I don't want London to go, obviously. Like, that would be bad. But I think we've been wanting quite some time to have a Spanish team. So I don't know exactly how this is going to work out, right? Maybe someone else buys Vegas and brings it back to London, or we get expansion and we get still a London team, because we need to have a franchise in the UK. But obviously, like, you know, Koi will plan to move London, if they at all can, over to Spain somewhere, and probably field a Spanish team. We've wanted that for quite some time, but London also do a good job for the, you know, the kind of local scene. They also field a lot of British players, so ideally we want both London and to have a good Spanish team. But it's really interesting these guys are now going to be involved effectively in the CDL to some degree, and in due course what that means for the organization, honestly, who really knows? So yeah, big news I think really that people are obviously talking about, but it's not gained quite as much traction yet as maybe it will over time. The other big news of yesterday coming with regard to the New York Subliners, they confirmed yesterday the final two pieces of the puzzle. Firstly, Priester joining as the fourth player on the team. They've got Hydra, Kismet, Skies, and Priester is the team of four. Priester is the one man here where, you know, is the most questionable player on the team. Hydra and Kiz makes a lot of sense. Skies, I like that addition. Can Priest be the player they need him to be that he was a few years ago, but he's had a couple of lackluster seasons now in a row. Can he get back to that level? Like Guerrillas, I think, said that he reckons Priest is going to be a monster, right? So I think it's, Priest is a very talented player, not a particularly talented dancer, but I mean, yeah, like this guy's coming into the roster, and well, they believe at least that he can hit levels like he was a few years ago, and maybe he just needs a fresh start on a new team to kind of show what he was capable of back in, let's say, 2017, 2018, even 2019. Now, Cinder is also joining as their kind of coaching staff. Now, he's kind of unclear here what Cinder exactly is going to, what role he exactly fills, because Drill is still there as technically the head coach, but I guess Cinder and Drill are kind of going to share that role to some degree. Cinder talked about that in this video, right, that he was like, yeah, I kind of want to be on a level playing field with the other coach, and maybe that's what's going to be happening here. So, interesting stuff. Cinder and Drill, the coaching staff. The rest of the team, it looks pretty good, but the Priester question is a big one. It's kind of similar to Standy, really. He's got to perform going into that Toronto Ultra team for next season. Priester in a very similar boat. Pressure is on him to deliver here, because if he doesn't, then, his days might be numbered even in the CDL. As Cinder goes on to say, excited to be with the Subliners to get the season underway. Appreciate the support. So I think he made the decision quite a while ago, and honestly, it might be, I mean, he mentioned in his video about leaving OpTic about the business side, right, and potentially they could be offering more money, who really knows, but yeah, it seems like that's the decision that Cinder, of course, made. He may have had other options. LAG was a consideration as well, potentially for Cinder, but of course it's Marky B going there as their head coach. They might well need an analyst or two, so we thought, could Cinder be an option there? Like, well, we'll see over the coming days and weeks, but there are many discussions still to be decided here from for the coaching perspective. And what do you guys think about their roster? This, as I've said a couple of times now, it's a really interesting team to me because they actually have an awful lot of talent on this team if it works out rather well. Like, they could be a top 4 contender, but I think it's more likely that they'll be in the kind of top 8 range. I'm not fully sure where the leadership comes from on this team. I think there are some questions around Hydra, for example, going into the new season, and certainly around Priester. So definitely a team that's hard to call where they will end up the season, but they should just about be good enough, I think, to make it to the World Championship at the very least. But I kind of doubt this team makes it to the end of the season without changes, but I think you can say that for many teams in the CDL as it stands. Let's talk about this whole cheating stuff then. So this I thought was absolutely hilarious. I'll share the clip for you guys. But Hitch is talking about a massive scandal right now going on in the chess community, and I follow the chess stuff pretty closely, so I'm very happy and excited to talk about this, and how a newly minted Grandmaster Hans Niemann may have been trying to cheat over the board in in-person games. Scump, after kind of the theories have got around as to how he might have achieved this, Scump has his own philosophies on how Call of Duty pros could do this at LAN events.
That he's played the exact moves that like the smartest computer would play.
He has it in his anus.
Yeah, and people said that he might have anal beads that vibrate when he has the right move.
The right approach, the right...
because they wand you down before you go into the venue.
But not back there.
So, could...
Wait. Wait, there's no way people think he's got anal beads up there.
Some people do.
Some people do.
I mean, that's next level.
And then I started thinking about how easy it would be.
Yo.
You know how easy it would be to cheat at an esports event?
Yeah.
It would be so easy.
Wait, yo, what if
Someone
next year in Call of Duty I get anal beads and like
if they're going
the
A,
second one vibrates if they're at B?
that's what I'm saying. If they
like,
go,
I'll be like, yo, Ant.
But how the hell
I'll
would
be the
he,
guy
how
that
does
like
it
makes
vibrate?
it. If they're planning,
How
it'll
does
be
he
3.
connect it to the board?
Yeah, right. All 3 of them.
I'd be afraid.
I'm just sitting there. They're all they're playing. You know what I'm saying? Damn.
Next thing you know, it's like someone's moaning. You're like, what the f?
So I'll just break down the story quickly if you guys aren't familiar with this. So the chess world champion Magnus Carlsen, the 5-time chess world champion, even signed off his message here with sincerely Magnus Carlsen, world chess champion, which was a pretty hard way to sign off. But a few weeks ago at the Sinkfield Cup, Magnus lost a game to new Grandmaster Hans Niemann, one of the fastest rising young players really in history. Actually, if you look at his rating rise over the last several months and years, really. He lost a game in surprising fashion and then the next day withdrew from the tournament. Unprecedented for Carlsen, like he's never done this before. And even in the next event he played online, he played Niemann and he just immediately resigned after like 2 moves or something, and that was the end of the game. Now he came out with this statement, Magnus, and he said, you know, when he was playing this game, he had the impression that his opponent wasn't tense or wasn't even fully concentrating and just completely outplayed him. So, you know, there's all been questions around this. Okay, where's Magnus's proof? All this type of stuff. Now, chess.com actually came out with an article where they looked into Niemann's play on their website, and he'd admitted, Neiman, that he cheated like twice when he was 12 and 16, but they found out that he cheated about, well, in more than 100 online games. Now, this is online, but, you know, pretty much they exposed him for cheating way more than he publicly admitted to, and therefore you can draw the inference that if he's willing to cheat this much online, would he be willing to do the same thing over the board? But of course, cheating in person is a rather different beast. Cheating online, I guess, like he had another browser up or something with the computer, tells him what to do, but to do it in person, that's a different feat entirely, and that's what Magnus has implied that Neiman has done, but there's no concrete proof about this. So of course the theories were being raised about, okay, could he be using certain implements up his rear to give him some sort of information about what to do? Now look, let's just say there's much easier ways you would think to cheat in person than to do that, one of which I suppose would be to have some sort of earpiece, someone tells you what to do, or I think one of the other things that Chess.com mentioned in their article was that you could have your coach stand in a certain position of the room, and if they're standing in this corner, that means to move your bishop. If they're standing in this corner, that means to move your rook. Who knows? But look, there are easier ways to cheat, and it's the same with Scump's example, right? Like, there are easier ways you would think if you really wanted to cheat as a team, rather than to use the anal bead method. But I just thought it was hilarious to mention regardless, and it's funny that this crossover has finally happened here, because that's what people thought this guy might be doing. The reality is they check him out and he's not, but there might be other ways to do it. But I think Scump does raise an interesting point, and Hitch as well, that, you know, in chess you would think that it's kind of impossible to cheat, but it turns out people have done it before, and, you know, maybe Hans Niemann has been doing it in person over the last several months. And what do you guys think of the chances are of a team doing this at a Call of Duty event? Because, you know, you can't rule out the possibility, okay, look, respawns, control, kind of hardpoints, it's not relevant, but in Search and Destroy, like, I'm sure this cheating has occurred in the past in other esports and stuff, maybe even in prior Call of Duty games, where, you know, a particular team has their coach or someone in the crowd. Like, of course, the classic way would just be that someone just holds up a sign that says A or B on it, and then, you know, it tells the particular team trying to defend where the attackers are trying to go. Like, I mean, that's kind of Scump's example, right? It vibrates once for A, vibrates twice for B, or whatever, right? Like, I mean, look, you can't honestly, like, do they check for any of this stuff? We know that in the crowd nowadays, if someone's chanting or doing something they shouldn't be, they kick them out, or trying to make noise, for example, when someone's trying to defuse the bomb. But, I mean, yeah, is there anything really stopping, like, look, the whole anal bead theory is unlikely that any team is going to be pulling anything like this out, but, you know, the point kind of stands that it's relatively easy if teams wanted to try and make something happen. The idea of someone in the crowd, you know, I don't know whether they could turn the flashlight on their phone when they're going to A, or like when they go to B, they do it or something, and just one of the players has a quick look up over the monitor, sees this particular individual right to the back of the room, and then can tell what's happening on the other side. So I'm sure this type of stuff, I'm not really aware of any, I'm sure like in Counter-Strike, this stuff's been talked about in the past as well. But what's to say players or teams couldn't decide to do something like this going into an actual event? So I don't know, cheating has been all over the place lately. There's been cheating scandals in practically everything going on, and it does make you wonder whether esports organizations in the CDL should really think about this more closely, because I mean, look, we don't have any proof or even any rumors that any teams in the CDL were doing this, but Scump's like coming up with a relatively simple solution of a way this could actually happen, and it could be very impactful in a Search and Destroy round. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, take care, and I'll see you next time.